All right, guys. Before we get into this episode of Mornings with the Mandalorian, we have a quick update that is, and it's not related, but it's an add-on to the other update we have regarding Ryan Johnson. That's a positive story that we're very excited. Well, this is also positive, but it's a just a fandom thing. But now it's like a serious sort of kind of political, but also just basic human decency thing that we want to get out of the way and address because it was in the news. So the update is that Gina Carano has been officially uh it's been officially notified to us, the general public, that she has been fired from Lucasfilm for posting a bunch of just what's the adjective form of bigotry? Bigotrous?
I'm
Bigotrosity?
not really sure, but she's also just been like a not a great person for small word.
Bigotrocious.
Yeah, that she's been
I
big
like that word,
atrocious.
bigotrocious, because it's like she's been big, like a huge atrocity in the space of the internet.
Yeah.
Um, because yeah, she posts like stuff that's like anti-Semitic and like anti-vaccines and like anti-Black Lives Matter stuff that we're really sort of tired of seeing as any sort of public figure that's in the popular stuff of Star Wars, anything that's like that, we'd like to see people be positive forces. And um people think that this is her being canceled for being conservative, but she's not talking about small government, she's not talking about low taxes. It's not about that, like those are conservative issues that like anyone could have a civil discussion about. This is just her like denying the rights of like transgender people and denying decency of like putting pronouns in your bio. Like she's just willfully being ignorant and and disrupting a lot of fandom harmony. So we've talked about this at length before, and we're just glad that it's gone. And uh and in other news, she's gonna be in a movie with Ben Shapiro, um,
That's
which is
that's
like
kind
this.
of funny.
It feels more absurd. That's like more absurd than the Snyder Cut.
Yeah.
Um, but other than that, she doesn't really deserve any other publicity from us, especially because she's not tied to Star Wars. But we will be continuing to just, you know, maintaining and learning, just being more aware about um, issues regarding like how bigotry is in our culture, because it's not just one celebrity who tweets a bunch of obnoxious stuff. Like we're not going to deny that things are ingrained in us that where we're believed some humans believe, or we're ingrained to believe some humans are valued more than others. And so we want to make that a little bit more of a conversation, um and not think that just because we hate Janet Carano doesn't mean we're a good person.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll say this as someone who politically considers myself a conservative, this is unacceptable. Like you can't just be out here like Elliot, have some human decency. Like Christian, like you were saying, like this isn't about what you believe politically. This is about her just not being a good person. Okay? Like she's being blatantly racist and so many other things that is just not acceptable from someone in such a highly looked at position as her. Um we will also say that as we treat I mean this is not even close, but the way that we see that Bill Burr is not a good dude in any way, but the character of Mayfeld is separate. That's the same way we're going to treat Gina Carano from Cara Dune as a character in the show that is separate from who she is in real life, so that we can not be biased about a character based on the person in real life. So, just that
especially
little
especially
tidbit.
since like it feels like Cara Dune is like the antithesis of Gina Carano, like a
Yeah,
rebel
Cara
who
Dune is like
fights for
awesome.
people's freedom. Like they feel so like polar opposite. But
Like
also I will be like the negative thing I will say is that like she was not a good actress from the start, and it
yeah,
feels better. it feels better after this is blown over to be like she's not as talented. Like the emphasis was all about the fighting. That's why she was hired.
Yeah.
Um,
But I do like Cara Dune a lot, and so I'm not gonna discount the character in any way. Just the fact that she's not a good person. There's been talks that they might recast her, which I think would be a cool idea. There's another fighter that they're looking at to maybe recast her with that I saw an article about, which I think would be a cool idea. Who knows? Who knows what's gonna happen? Her show has been officially taken back, and like I know there was going to be a spinoff show about her, and it has been taken away. Not going to happen. So
but no, but she's part of the Rangers of the New Republic thing,
she
right?
is, but there was also going to be, and there was also like stuff going around that there was going to be a new Cara Dune like spinoff show.
I
Just like,
think those are I think those are the same thing. I
are
think
they?
the first news was that she was like the lead, and then we got
Okay.
the official title
Oh,
of
okay.
that is now Rangers of the New Republic. It'll be interesting to see if they do recast her or if they just write her out. I don't know.
I'd like them to recast because I do like the character. So that's my
I
only
think
thing.
I
But I
mean
could understand either way.
Lucasfilm's part in this has been very diplomatic to say the least, but like in a bad way, in that they're not really willing to take a stand on any of this. They did the same thing with Kelly Marie Tran and Daisy Ridley, who were bullied off of social media, and they didn't do anything to stand up for them. That was annoying. And then they took a while to even stand up for John Boyega. John Boyega came out with his story about experiencing so much racism and just like all of his sort of just reflections as like after this summer kicked off a new like wave of the Black Lives Matter movement. And like that same day Lucasfilm dropped like a trailer for The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Like I seriously doubt the like I just don't think that Lucasfilm's been handling any of these situations very well. That being said, it would be funny if they would like okay a script for the Rangers of the New Republic in which like Cara Dune comes out as non-binary or something like that and says like don't refer to me as her. Any sort of thing that would make Gina Carano mad, I think that'd be funny. But that being said, I think this is gonna play at the beginning of this. Yeah, this is the beginning of this episode. So yeah, now go to our past selves talking about Ryan Johnson.
Yeah. Right after this ad break. Welcome back to Mornings with the Mandalorian, the show where we mess up the intro every single time, at least once without fail. All right, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Mornings with the Mandalorian, the show where we talk about our first reactions, filmmaking techniques, and connections to the greater Star Wars universe within the Emmy Award-winning show, The Mandalorian, now streaming on Disney+. I'm your host, Spencer Chandler, here with my co-host, Christian Miller.
What's up? This week though, we're not doing any of those things. We're doing rankings.
No, we're not doing anything that I just said.
Yeah, because we're in between seasons, but we still want to have a discussion about this show that we love. Yeah.
The show that made us start podcasting.
Yeah, Jon Favreau held a gun to our heads
And he said
and was like,
start a podcast now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, so last season, after last season, as you guys know, we did well, you guys might not know, but we we ranked every episode of The Mandalorian.
No, we didn't.
Did we not?
No, you're totally you made that up.
Wow. Okay, I ranked them. We just didn't do an episode about it. Then.
Yeah, we were out of a true schedule, I guess, at that point. Now that we're on consistent schedule, it's like we're thinking that stuff now. But that's
anyway.
But because of that, we're doing both seasons.
Yes.
And yeah, we're gonna be using the same algorithm we used to come up with our rankings for the theatrical films that we did in the fall. So stay tuned. We're gonna get to that in just a few moments. But first, today is a very important date in Star Wars history.
And very exciting.
Yeah. Even though it's technically something that's been duplicated like 5 times. And it's that it's still official that Rian Johnson is working on his trilogy for Lucasfilm. His Star Wars trilogy for Lucasfilm. It's not like he's going to do a Willow trilogy.
Yeah.
A
Suck it,
a
haters.
willogy, if you will. Um but so this is coming from the journalist Soraya Wilson, who I've been seeing on Twitter hyping up this like Zoom chat with Rian Johnson for the past few weeks.
Yeah,
And
I've been
or
seeing this too.
yeah, and she's been asking, fans, like what should I ask? I'm obviously she had questions that she needed to ask, but like it was very much a like fan involved thing because anytime Rian Johnson gives an interview, it's something worth paying attention to, in my
Yeah.
opinion, and a lot of other people's opinions. Um, and the interview is not out yet. I think it's going into a written piece. I don't think the Zoom call was recorded. But right now she's been giving updates via Twitter, and she posted this this morning. I'm just going to post this now because I can see that I'm going to get a lot of requests. Yes, Ryan's Star Wars trilogy is still on. No dates or timelines because he has other projects going on, but it is happening. That is all I know about it. 3 smiley faces.
Nice. Very exciting. Like,
What is your
okay, so
reaction to this?
I'm happy, although I didn't know that there was question whether it was actually going to happen or not. So like, I just found out that apparently people didn't think it was going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I guess part of it is the fact that it's been a little over 3 years since it was announced.
Yeah, and it
So
says,
like
well, be patient. Jeez.
yeah, like so many things feel like they should be immediate, that like, and especially because other things have been greenlit, like just in the past 3 years or even like 2 years, Disney has like set in motion this Disney Plus sort of plan for their intellectual property,
Yeah.
which we've talked about before. A lot of things we don't like about that whole system. And so before that, it was just this promise of something original from Rian Johnson that he's cooking up. And you know, I mean, it was obviously born out of like the fact that there was no production trouble um when he made The Last Jedi, as opposed to everything that happened on the set of Solo, on the set of Rogue One, and The Force Awakens, and subsequently The Rise of Skywalker. There were production halts and reshoots for all of those movies.
Yeah.
And so it just makes sense as just a business partner sort of thing to be like, I don't want to have to spend more money on doing reshoots, so I'm gonna get you to do another job because you seem to know what you're doing.
Yeah, I know. I know. After The Last Jedi, Kathleen Kennedy just couldn't say enough good things about Ryan Johnson, about like how easy he was to work with, and how I guess how quickly he got things done, and just how efficiently he made his movie, and that. So yeah, I understand where this is coming from. Not only from like a creative standpoint, but also just from like it's a good business model. Go with the guy who spends less money to make a great movie.
Yeah,
You know.
and that's the thing. That's the thing. It's also a great. He's just a great storyteller, great
Oh
creator,
yeah.
and he's not. I saw this quote circulating today of he was quoted as saying, George Lucas never, before putting pen to paper, he never said, "What do the fans want to see?"
Yeah.
He's quoting the maker, so to speak, who's like he's not even trying to channel George Lucas in his work. Like he's not trying to pay homage to that, but he's attributing that philosophy towards his own
Yeah.
writing. And that's just, I don't know, it's just, I can go on and on about how much I like um just everything about Ryan's writing. I've just been watching Brothers Bloom, which is his I think his 2008 film. It's like my
Mhm.
favorite non-Star Wars movie he's done.
Even more than Knives Out.
Yeah.
Dang.
I mean, it's tough to really tell because it like they're like it's Brothers Bloom came out before his like big budget phase where he was where it feels like where he got like a bunch of stars. Like he had some stars in Brothers Bloom, but it didn't feel like a I don't know. I don't know. There's like maybe it's just because no one talks about Brothers Bloom, so I can more easily just be like, this is my little thing.
Yeah.
Whereas like Knives Out was a cultural touchstone.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, um, there was so much doubt as you were saying, which is like a surprising amount of doubt that it was happening because so many other projects were announced when there was no other news about this trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's just a thing of like I saw another thing. I can't remember if I don't know if it's a tweet from Soraya Wilson, but I saw it somewhere where it was just like trilogies take like 10 years of effort. And so Ryan Johnson obviously is not going to go straight into another decade of Star Wars right after doing Star Wars for like
Oh
4
no.
years.
And he's also like, isn't Knives Out 2 coming up pretty quick
Yeah.
as well?
Like he
So
fast
like,
tracked that. He's also I think Knives Out was like the first movie under his own production label. So like he's getting into producing and not directing as well. So he's trying to like get all those things in order now that he's a successful director, and then
mhm.
he can go live on an island and stew in the force.
Yeah, but so like, give him a break. Let him make his other stuff. Like,
Yeah.
geez, the guy's successful. He has other stuff to do other than. Also, like, how long did we know that there was going to be a Disney trilogy? Like before The Force Awakens even came out?
It was announced when they bought it in like 2012, I think.
Yeah, and then it didn't come out till what 20? I always forget 2017.
2015.
Oh, geez. Well, anyway, either way, uh, that dude,
Uh,
that does not feel as
yeah.
long. It does not feel as long ago as it is that The Force Awakens came out. That means it's wow,
Yeah.
6 years. That's crazy. Anyway, but yeah, like it takes a minute to get stuff on the I don't know. If you want it to be planned out, it takes longer too because as we all know, there was not a there was a little bit of a plan, but there wasn't like a well written like 3 movie plan when The Force Awakens came
Yeah.
out. So if you want him to have a plan, which is the biggest issue that a lot of people have with the
Well,
sequel trilogy, is they didn't have a plan. So like if you want that,
but
you
we
gotta
don't
wait longer.
we no, it's not even that. I don't think we don't know how planned out it's going to be. Um
Oh no,
but like he's going to
yeah.
be but with like directing at least one of them and producing and writing all of them, like
Yeah.
just being in that sort of pre-production, like all phase of the production for that long is it's just I my hope is that it's that it does a better job of improvising than the sequel trilogy. That it has it's laying out and it knows where it's going, but it can still change um based off of like further thought and
Yeah.
I don't want to say fan reaction, but like
No, but there is something that
there's
happens.
tiny doses that you like where like directors could learn from their fans, but I don't think they should ever be beholden to that.
No, but I do think there is something like when you're making a movie, you think something, but then once you kind of release it, you have it out for about, if you have it out for a few months, you go back and watch the whole thing, you start to think differently about the future. Like, oh, maybe this would work better than this we had planned, and it's not completely different, but it's, just this little piece that could be a little bit better. And then you can tweak it that way in between movies. And, being able to do that well is always good when it comes to any like sequel movie at ever, not just
Hmm.
Star Wars. So that's always going to be an important thing. So, but yeah, having a plan when you go into it is always important as well, just to kind of know where you're going instead of just willy nilly shooting around. So yeah.
And I mean, yeah, he only had one movie for the sequel trilogy, but like he wrote what he wrote and then he filmed what he wrote. And
Mm-hmm.
there, I mean, that's
Oh yeah.
simplification. Like obviously there's lots of things that change and collaboration brings about a lot of things, but like it wasn't like mass rewriting while shooting, like
Yeah.
just sort of going back to the drawing board continuously. And he has this sort of approach that's very consistent and like direct. Well, that's an apt term because he's a director.
Nice.
Anyway, all of this to say, in the words of Elijah Wood when he played Animal Crossing with a bunch of Raylos, long live Ryan Johnson.
Long live Ryan Johnson. Yeah, absolutely. Did he really say that?
Yeah, everything what I just said was true.
That's awesome. Were they just random people?
I think he'd been tweeting stuff that was like very Raylo, and then like just a bunch of Raylo fans caught onto it, and that's when Animal Crossing was getting super big on the Switch, and I think he like just posted a code or whatever to people to come to his island, and then couple Raylos just sort of hung out with him virtually, and he said that, and now it's
That's
like a meme. Like the screen grab is like posted a lot of anytime
That's
Ryan Johnson comes
crazy.
up in the news.
I love that. Well, that's good news for today, and I hope everyone, I hope you guys are all in support of this new trilogy. And if you're not, that's cool too, whatever. But we're here to talk about The Mandalorian because it's been about a month probably since we did an official mornings. No, we haven't done a Mornings with The Mandalorian episode since December. So it's been almost 2 months since we've done an episode. And we are now going to rank season 1 of The Mandalorian, all the episodes in that, and then we're going to rank all the episodes in season 2. And then I guess we'll restate which season we think is better. Because we couldn't find an actual like ranking system that had all of them together,
Yeah,
and it would be insane for us to try to do that just freehand by ourselves. So we're going to use this little algorithm, and if you guys would like to take these tests as well to try to figure out what you rank, we have the link to season 1 and season 2 in the description. They will be the first 2 links if you go
yeah.
down there and check them out. Or you can just go to sorta.app and you can look up any quiz to rank anything that you can think of, really. They have a ton of stuff. And so just
Shout out Chuck Skoda. I think his title's like a web designer or something like that, and he does all these little projects, and so this is a really cool, engaging little thing that's,
and
I mean, as far as I know, has never been done on a podcast. So
I don't know. We'll try to see how well it works when most of it is going to be visual and we're doing this on an audio format. But the way this works is that we are given 2 choices of episodes and we will choose which one we would rather watch. So, for example, if they gave us episode 1 and episode 6, we would talk about which one we think is better and why. And then we'll pick that one, and they'll keep matching us up with different episodes until we kind of go through all of it, and then they'll tell us which episodes we ranked the highest and the lowest. So it's pretty cool because now we get to talk about certain episodes compared to other episodes that maybe we've never talked about on the podcast before. And we're also going to talk about season 1, which we haven't talked about since 2019. So
we did a little bit of a preview for season 2.
We did a little bit, but we haven't gone in depth in a while. So this will be kind of fun, I think, to do.
And some of the divide that I have in my mind when I take these quizzes is like, well, how should I approach this? Should it be which one? And sometimes the question even like varies. So it's like sometimes it says which one was better, and sometimes it says which one would you rather watch right now. And those don't always mean the same thing.
No, they don't.
Sometimes I like something that's like chapter 7, The Reckoning, for example, is like that's an emotionally dissatisfying one at the end because it's a cliffhanger. So maybe I don't want to watch that right now, even if I think that it's one of the most well-made ones.
Oh yeah.
That's just an example, but what I hope we can sort of balance is that like it's just encompassing all of that, like something that has the most qualities that we find interesting to think about, but at the same time touches like is personal to us at the same time. Like ideally the number 1 is like the best example of that,
Yeah, exactly. So we'll tell you what the questions are each one, and then we'll kind of judge based on either thing. All right, so our first question here is which episode was better? And we're doing season 1 first, by the way. And that is chapter 7, The Reckoning, or chapter 8, Redemption. This is a really hard first question. Why did they do this to us?
Yeah.
Ah,
And obviously, like we're gonna have differing opinions. So like, let's start off with you, and
yeah. Um,
and I'll take this because I'm sharing my screen for if the viewers can't see and they don't know what's going on. But like, I'm sharing my screen. I'm taking the quiz for him. We'll do him, then we'll do me.
yeah. I don't know, because I really like chapter 7 because I just love all the Moff Gideon, standoff stuff and everything that goes on. Isn't chapter 8 when he takes off his helmet for the first time?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm gonna go chapter 8, not just because of that, but also like I just love IG-11's whole arc in chapter 8, and I really liked him as a character. So I'm gonna go with chapter 8, Redemption.
Yeah, that seems like your choice because of the opening sort of 5 minutes with IG.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next we have chapter 5, The Gunslinger and the Prisoner. I don't think this is a very hard question here. I'm gonna go The Prisoner. If you guys have been a fan of the podcast for a while, you know that The Gunslinger is probably one of our least favorite episodes on the podcast. Um, yeah,
We've come around to parts of it, but
yeah, I've come
the
around to the
prisoner is,
oh yeah, The
very
Prisoner is
acclaimed.
great. So like that's not even a question. So Um, all right. So we have Sanctuary and The Sin. And I'm gonna go with I think this is another easy one because I absolutely love Sanctuary. I love the directing style and just like I love the emotional impact that Sanctuary has between Mando and the lady that I can never remember her name.
Omera.
Yes. So also I've never been scared of an ATST before until I watched Sanctuary. So I'm gonna go with Sanctuary on this one. All right. Chapter 1, The Mandalorian, or chapter 2, The Child. Which episode was I don't this is weird because like one of these was just like the first thing we ever watched. And so like my reaction to it was like insane compared to
Yeah.
the
Plus,
second one.
it was only a few days apart too. It was like a Tuesday and then Friday.
Yeah, it was. What is chapter 2 whenever he fought the Mudhorn?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I am gonna go with I think I'm gonna go chapter 1, The Mandalorian, because I've always been someone who just like loves some gunslinging uh bounty hunters, and I think that episode was just really awesome for that reason. Speaking of gunslinging, we have The Gunslinger versus The Reckoning, and I'm gonna go with The Reckoning on this one again.
Pretty quick decision.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've said on the podcast multiple times that we both think that The Gunslinger is probably the weakest episode in
Uh-huh.
season 1, and I will stand by that. Um,
It's gonna
okay.
get faster here because we've almost talked about all the episodes,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
now
yeah.
it's just narrowing down between two different
All right,
ones.
The Reckoning and The Prisoner. I will say I think I don't know. This is which one was better overall. I'm gonna say The Reckoning just because of the immense storytelling and the wrapping up of an entire season. And
Mistakes.
yeah. The Child and the Sin. Why am I blanking on what happens in the Sin?
It's when the covert rescues Mando,
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
the Iron Man moment, and it's a bunch of action scenes basically.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with The Child because very good, some good storytelling happens in that one. Sanctuary and The Child. This is hard because these are two very different episodes, I feel like. Um, but I think I enjoy watching Sanctuary more. So I will say Sanctuary.
Okay.
All right, Sanctuary and The Mandalorian. Um, we're getting hard now because we're going up against like the best because
We're getting
eventually
what?
in these quizzes
What's happening, Spencer?
we're getting to the putting the better episodes against each other.
Okay, that makes sense.
What do you think I said?
I know what you said. I was just questioning if you wanted to say it.
I don't know. I was just saying that we're putting the better episodes against each other now.
You said we're getting hard now.
Oh, okay. That's not what I meant. Okay. Chapter 1, The Mandalorian or The Sanctuary? I'll say The Sanctuary because it had more to do with the overall, I guess. Well, I don't know. But yeah, I'll say Sanctuary. The Sin or The Gunslinger? I don't know. Probably The Sin.
Yeah.
I have better memories of that episode. The Child or The Prisoner? I'm gonna say The Prisoner. Yeah.
The prisoner.
The Prisoner. The Mandalorian or The Reckoning? Again, I'm gonna go with The Reckoning.
Ooh, tough
Sanctuary.
choice now.
Ooh, yeah, okay. The Sanctuary or The Reckoning? Yeah, I'm gonna have to do The Reckoning. I think it's had way too much to do with the rest of the second season and this season.
Ooh, and we have a final results. I will
Okay.
describe them from 8 to 1. Okay, 8 is no surprise. Chapter 5, The Gunslinger, your least favorite episode
Yeah,
of
I
season
mean,
1.
that's fine.
At number 7, Chapter 3, The Sin.
Those are the two that I like. That were it's hard to tell me which one, or it's hard for me to say which one's worse. So yeah, those are
Yeah.
the bottom two.
Number 6, Chapter 2, The Child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just looking over
Number
the list.
5.
Because I've taken this quiz before for when we did the mutual rankings marathon, and I took it once and didn't agree with the list at the end.
Yeah, sometimes I think like the first few times I did this, I was like, that's not right. But now it's like I'm used to it that like
Yeah,
I
now
know where things are going, and so I know that sometimes you can be inconsistent with your choices.
yeah, you can. And so now I agree with this list, which I think is
Yeah.
good. It means I took
Or
it right.
like your opinion evolves the more you go on.
Yeah.
It
So
can be really confusing.
I liked it. I like this list though. So continue.
Yeah. Number 5, Chapter 6, The Prisoner. Are you sure you agree with this?
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's my opinion
Yeah.
that's been the most vocal about this, but it seems like you're pretty high on it too.
Yeah, I like it. The only thing that I think that would move it is I might put it at number 4 instead of chapter 1, maybe. But I think overall I had a better reaction to number 1 just strictly because it was like the first episode, and I thought it was insane.
Yeah.
So I think I don't have as high of a opinion on that one as you do, but I still really like it. So I think middle of the road is pretty good.
Yeah. And so as you said, number 4 is chapter 1, the pilot, and then chapter 3, number 3 is chapter 4, Sanctuary, the Bryce Dallas Howard episode.
Yes.
And yeah, okay. So number 2, chapter 7, The Reckoning. The one where if this was a Friends episode, it would be like the one where he reckons with some stuff. And then that leaves chapter 8, Redemption, for the top season 1 episode for you.
I agree with that. And do you remember when Sanctuary came out and we were like, it doesn't have the in front of it. This means something crazy. And we were like, we were like, what does it mean that there's no the? And then it literally meant nothing.
It felt weird though, because there was a format being set up, and then it was a title that could have easily used a the.
Yeah, it was.
And he's just like, no, it's just Sanctuary.
And then we were like, what does it mean? And then it didn't mean anything. And then they did Redemption, and there was nothing there either. So there you go. So are you gonna take it now?
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's resetting.
Okay,
Here we go.
I see it now.
It's starting off with the first with the same exact choice. I didn't realize that the order was always the same.
I didn't either.
I think it starts out with the same generally, but it can change depending on your choices. Okay. Chapters. Well, do you wanna read the results?
Yeah.
Oh
Okay.
wait,
so,
no, never mind. You read the results for when you did it, so I'm
yeah. I'll read your results at the end though.
Yeah. Okay. Which episode was better? Chapter 7, The Reckoning, or Chapter 8, Redemption? I mean, we didn't discuss the Chapter 7 part that was like gathering the allies again.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fun stuff. There's the bonfire scene with the dragons. Obviously the cliffhanger is a bit disappointing in the moment. I don't know. This is my contrarian part of like seeing the things that you miss, I guess. Of
Hey man, that's what happens every episode. It's all good.
yeah.
I
don't know.
say
I just
things.
want to. Yeah,
then you
I
say
want to
what I
make sure
didn't.
I want to make sure all the aspects are considered, even if I'm not going to choose differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do love a lot of of that stuff from Chapter 7, but I think Chapter 8 ultimately is it satisfied so many things that like we were speculating about throughout the season. Just sort of those moments where we wanted Din to like be open or come to some emotional, climax, because he was so guarded throughout the whole time. And so yeah, I'm gonna go with Chapter 8.
Nice.
No question, Prisoner over the Gunslinger.
Yeah, that's
Prisoner is I'll just speak on it briefly. Prisoner is just my favorite episode because the thing that I enjoy most about the show is the episodes that are standalone, as long as they add something meaningful.
yeah.
And so much of this episode just feels so meaningful and fun, because like if it's an episode that's doing a genre thing, like a heist, like a crime movie,
it also means
that's what
more.
I'm enjoying most out of it.
It also means more season 2. Like season 2 just adds more meaning to the prisoner, I think. With
Oh yeah, it does set up some threads, and it's
yeah.
um I don't know, if you were like upset when those 3 standalone episodes of this season, like they at least showed you that this is what it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I actually kind of count The Child as a standalone as well,
Yeah, I would.
because it feels so out of place. It's like off world,
Yeah.
But
So I do want to mention one
but
thing that the
what I mean is
gunslinger
that,
did well.
sorry, I just need to finish it though. In season 2 though, like I think people appreciate this aspect of the show more in season 2, and
Mhm.
this is what like gave them that before this year, I guess.
Yeah, I think you're right. I do though want to mention one thing that I think the gunslinger did well, and that was that it introduced us to 2 really awesome characters, which are Pelimoto, which I think she's hilarious and I like her a lot, and it gave us Finnick Shand. It didn't give us Finnick very well in that episode, but then she
Yeah.
like kicked butt in the second season, so like all about
Yeah.
it. So it set up stuff for the future that was good, but like the episode itself was not very good.
Yeah. And some of my problems with the Gunslinger then was just it felt more like a normal TV show, and the tone didn't seem to be consistent with the rest of the show or the rest of the
Yeah.
universe.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still plenty to be enjoyed there. Any sort of double crossing story is fun.
Yeah.
All right, now we got the Sin versus Sanctuary. I've always had like I liked the Sin when I'm watching it, I guess. But when I look back, the things that stick with me are just sort of like the action scenes, and like they just seem like very long, that doesn't entice me to rewatch it, even though I do
Yeah.
love the meaning behind that action for Mando to reverse his sin basically and take back Grogu. But I think Sanctuary was much more satisfying for me because that's when we were finally getting into different areas of the universe, different tones, and like making it more episodic, because that was what I was looking forward to with the show. So that's where we got.
Did the client ever die?
Yeah, he died in the finale,
That's right. I
or
knew that.
episode 7 or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sanctuary, it brought about like a domestic setting. It was the first time there were substantial female speaking roles in the series at this point, which is a sort of a criticism that I had, and nothing else to be said other than kids playing with Grogu. Like that's just so good.
That was really cool.
Chapter 1 versus Chapter 2. I have to go with Chapter 2 because I love the Mudhorn scene. I love Suka. I wasn't initially a strong proponent of the child. Part of that could have been because we were having 2 episodes in 1 week, and like you want to have the most to possibly talk about, and it was like a very short episode because in the moment I was like disappointed.
Yeah.
But the more I go back to it, it's just one of my favorite. I love seeing Din just get beat up, and it was sort of the cornerstone of so many aspects of the show where he's like, he has to do the task and he's trying his best but just can't be successful. And I had the worry that this was going to be a action hero cliche, and everything about this episode proved that wrong. So
well, those 2 episodes were the very first podcast that we ever released was about those 2 episodes, and I think that's dope. Like that's just cool that we talked about 2 episodes on our very first podcast. So I don't remember which one I liked more in the moment. I don't honestly remember which one I liked more back then. I can't tell you.
Honestly, it was all just a blur of like, Star Wars on my screen on my laptop. This is weird.
Mm-hmm.
Chapter 5, the Gunslinger versus Chapter 7, the Reckoning. Definitely the Reckoning. It's not really a tough decision.
Nah.
And then, I mean, for most normal people, it would be a tough decision, or maybe even an easy decision, in considering Chapter 7, the Reckoning versus Chapter 6, the Prisoner. But for me, there's no doubt about it. It's the Prisoner. It's my favorite episode.
Hey, go.
Sorry to spoil this for people who want to know the final results, but like the Prisoner is my favorite. I'm just going Prisoner all the way. Okay, Chapter 1, the Mandalorian versus Chapter 3, the Sin. Some of the things that I didn't like about Chapter 1 was that it didn't seem like they fully worked out the effects, and so it looked, or maybe they were just saving money for other episodes, so it didn't seem as well made. It had a lot of cool, quirky Star Wars things that are enjoyable, like the flute playing, whatever his name is, and seeing what's his name? I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. The comedian Brian Posehn, the guy with the beard and the goggles, who drove the little speeder. Like it had some of those classic like weird Star Wars characters and noises and all that stuff, but ultimately, like, I think it's just more emotionally resonant of having the Sin higher on the list because it brings about more Mandalorian lore, and we've already gotten to know Baby Yoda a bit more. Although obviously credit to Chapter 1 though for that amazing image of him opening the case.
Dude, that was my wallpaper for so long on my phone, was just the silhouette of him and the whatever you call it, the egg thing.
Yeah. For me, it was, my wallpaper was the concept art of Baby Yoda playing, and like there's like a loth cat in the background.
Yeah, my lock screen was him touching the my home screen was him touching or opening the thing, and then my lock screen was that concept art of older baby older Grogu in like Mandalorian armor holding Din's helmet
Yeah,
as if
that's
like Din was dead, and I was like, that's crazy.
because
And so
it'd be like centuries later.
yeah, and he still looked like a 20-year-old Grogu
Yeah.
did, so I thought it was cool.
And then chapter 3, the sin, I would go against chapter 2, the child. I would go with the child. Just more fun for me. And then I'd choose the child over sanctuary, because even though I like the new places we were going with sanctuary, I would still accept Nick Nolte as an Ugnaught and a bunch of Jawas throwing stuff at Mando
Heck
as
yeah.
the superior choice. And then I'd choose chapter 1 against the gunslinger, because setups are good and weird quips are not. Even though I love the pit droids. Pit droids are great.
Yes, I love pit droids.
I mean, I don't mean that as a blanket statement. I'm not against weird quips. Some of it just felt a little out of place.
Yeah, they weren't good weird quips.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm dyslexic.
And then we're getting a return of the Reckoning. The Reckoning sort of got beat down a little early in this fight because of going against a prisoner, but they are it's not a person. It is a really great episode. And yeah, I love the gathering of the allies, sort of returning back to the ensemble nature of the show that wasn't fully developed at this point. And then are they called rogue troopers or death troopers? I never
They're
can remember.
called death troopers. Those are death troopers.
Yeah. And we get, this is the first time we hear Moff Gideon's theme, the dum 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 dum. That's iconic. So I gotta pick that over chapter 1. And I'd have to pick it over chapter 3.
All right, this should be the
And I'd have
last.
to pick it.
Maybe
Well,
last question.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing that's sort of bringing this home for me is that Moff Gideon theme. So I've got, even though I made a strong case for Sanctuary, I gotta choose chapter 7.
Also, just that
over Sanctuary.
amazing visual of him getting out of the TIE fighter with all the stormtroopers surrounding the bar.
Oh yeah, that was a great
That's insane.
that was a great little fan experience for me too, because like I remember the concept art in the Force Awakens book of like, it was like people play, like artists were like playing around with how like ships would land, and it was like, how does a TIE fighter land? Does the wings fold? Is there a ladder? And they literally ripped that straight out of that Force
And we
Awakens.
also didn't get the answer for is there a ladder? Because we don't actually see him get out.
That's true. Yeah.
The only time we see him get out of it is when he cuts himself out with the darksaber at the end of episode 8.
But the concept was ripped right out of this.
Yeah,
book
no,
for The
I
Force
get
Awakens.
it. Yeah.
And then in the end credits they showed the concept art for the show, and it showed Moff Gideon sort of inserted into that Force Awakens piece.
Heck yeah.
So that's one of my favorite little tidbits. And so I mean, it's not just because of that, but I'm just pulling in more reasons why I like chapter 7.
Listen, you don't have to convince me. I'm with you on this.
Yeah. But you're not with me on this, because chapter 2, the child, I think is superior to chapter 7.
All right.
Because at the end of the day, I always value the weirdness over, not to sacrifice emotional stakes, but
Yeah.
I tend not to be like, this is good because it's consequential.
Mm-hmm.
I
think I'm gonna be really similar to that with season 2, because I really tend to just enjoy those really goofy episodes.
Yeah, but with this season, based on your rankings, it was more like this has the most story.
Yeah, just as like an opening season, that's kind of what I valued at this season. But then season 2, I felt like those quirky episodes were a little bit better.
Especially since in season 2 there were story things that we had gripes with.
So. Yeah, exactly.
And chapter 8, redemption against chapter 2, the child, I'd still have to go with the child. And okay, this is
The
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 I think
big
this is the
one.
final battle, and maybe there's after this there's going to be a worst one versus worst one
Possibly.
battle, but the best of the best, chapter 2 the child versus chapter 6 the prisoner. I should have skipped the preamble because it's the prisoner. And we're done.
All right. So we're gonna start at number 8, which you have as chapter 5, the gunslinger, and then you have number 7 as chapter 1, the Mandalorian, which is significantly lower than what I have it. And then you have chapter 3, the sin, at number 6. Number 5, you have chapter 4, sanctuary. At number 4, you have chapter 7, the reckoning, followed by chapter 8, redemption. At number 3, with the child coming in at number 2, and at number 1, chapter 6, the prisoner. So there you go. Do you agree with this
Yeah.
list that is created for you?
Yeah, I do.
Nice.
I'm trying to think of a quote. Is that why you still don't want to show you quiz results?
You said don't like on my face?
But yeah, something that's interesting about both of our rankings is we're definitely judging each episode on its own merit,
Yeah.
and not to be like we're more thoughtful than other people, but
No, we are.
but
Christian.
I mean,
We're more thought.
I have
no.
seen I've seen other people's results, and like it's like they group like 1, 2, and 3 together, and they group 4, 5, and 6 together, and 7 and 8 together.
Well, I feel like if we're ranking the episodes, we can't rank them with groups.
No, I mean that's just like how it comes out for them because
Oh, okay.
they dislike the middle 3, and they like the first 3, and they really like the last 2.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Kind
Like
of.
people, like I don't know, just people who like have a certain taste and like something like they group it into like this taste is either gonna get it from me or it's not, whereas we're like considering all the elements within it.
Those are the same people that use
So-
the term filler episode.
Yes, that is.
Which
Did you see that?
Which
did you
I
see
do
that
want to
head-
say. We've said that on episodes, but we don't mean it. I just want to like let that out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you see that headline for? It was an article about WandaVision, and it was like this story could have been told in a feature film, and the week to week basis is not effective storytelling, and it's like this movie or this show is about a TV show.
This is the perfect way to do this.
Yeah, it's about characters talking about the mysterious elements of a TV show every week and figuring out
Yeah.
things, and that's exactly what we are doing as an audience. Like this notion that everything needs to be like a weekend release, like Stranger Things,
Yeah.
and everything needs to be like a movie is like so ridiculous.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna move on to season 2, and we're gonna start off with chapter 15, the believer, and chapter 16, the rescue. Chapter 15 is when they go on that heist mission to like shut down whatever is on what's it called? The Navarro, right?
Nope.
Nope. Okay, I got my episodes mixed up. Remind me
Well,
about
the picture is a bit confusing because the believer and the siege both have
That's right. No,
she who must not be named like driving a tank, but this is the one with Bill Burr.
That's right. Okay. I'm gonna take that episode over the rescue, please. The rescue
yes.
being the season finale.
Yes.
Anyway, yes, believer, please. I also just want to say, like, I don't have a problem with the rescue except for like the last 5 minutes, but like that also kind of like ruins the rest of the episode. So
I saw somewhere that like the entire Luke fight scene is like 5 minutes. Like that's how long it is.
jeez.
I guess
Look, I don't
guess that
have
makes sense because like I don't know. I just thought that when we were watching it as fans at like 4 a.m, it only felt like an hour because it's one of those major moments. you know, that like you're
Well,
seeing it
like
in slow motion,
I've
but it turns out that that's just the scene. It's just made that slowly and takes up that much time.
I have a better way of voicing my opinion about it that I just want like in one sentence. And it's I don't have a problem with Luke being in the episode. I only have a problem with the fact that Din gave up Grogu. Like that's the only problem. Like it would have been awesome if Luke came in, destroyed everything, said, "Give me the child," and then Mando said, "Screw off, Wizard Man." You know, like I think that would have been funny. And so like
Yeah.
I would have been cool with that. But I just and like I was cool with Luke being in it. And I was like, this is kind of cool seeing him mow down a bunch of dudes. Like that's kind of sick. But
Uh,
once Din gave him Grogu, I was like, nope, can't do it. Nope.
that's
So
the thing. It's like if you're making the decision to do Luke, you're doing it for the fan service, and you're going the hero worship route.
yeah, I think
If you're
so.
not doing it, you're not doing the interesting choice of Din taking Grogu instead of giving him off to a Jedi. Like,
Yeah, so you kind of have to have the Jedi, but like in the same way,
yeah,
you're getting you're getting fan service in there, which I will take any day as long as Mando makes a decision that makes sense.
yeah. And
So
I still have a negative opinion about this, but there's it's possible that they reverse it and our disappointment with the ending might have been the point. Like, it's possible that the story they're telling in season 3 is going to play off of that well.
and if
I'm
they
not
play
super
off of it,
optimistic, but it's
no,
possible.
but if they play off of it, I will change my opinion on the episode. So I
Yeah.
mean, if they can make a good story about Mando realizing he's wrong, then I will change my opinion on the episode. I'll say that on the air. So
Or Luke realizing
yeah,
he's
or
wrong.
Luke realizing for like
Yeah.
once that he's wrong, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, our next question here is chapter 13, the Jedi, or chapter 14, the tragedy, and the chapter 14. Oof, why am I forgetting what
It's the
happened?
Robert Rodriguez
That's
one.
right. Yep. Okay.
The photo is misleading because it's from the final moment of the episode, and it doesn't have any
Yeah.
of the like actual like story in the photo.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like
because
I
that's
mean, I love this algorithm, but it seems like the designer is going out of his way to include Cara Dune in every possible photo, which
yeah.
makes me a little mad.
So the tragedy is the episode like right after he gets done with Ahsoka, and then I'm like blanking because of how off-putting the whatever thumbnail is. Which episode is the tragedy again? Why is
I
this so
told you
bad?
the Robert Rodriguez one where Boba Fett is reintroduced
That's
officially,
right, and
and
it's where Baby Yoda gets taken. Yes. I this is weird because I have like negative feelings for both of these for different reasons. Um, I like the Jedi strictly because Ahsoka Tano is one of my favorite Jedi of all time, and while I think it could have been better, I really liked seeing her again in live action. So I'll say the Jedi.
all right.
The Heiress and the Siege. The Heiress every day, please. Loved that episode. I love Bo-Katan and a lot of other stuff. And chapter 9 doesn't even have a thumbnail. Um, okay. Chapter 9, the Marshal, or chapter 10, the Passenger. Chapter 9 being wow, there's not even a thumbnail to help me out here. What the
It's
heck?
Cobb Vanth, and
That's
chapter
right.
10 is
Yeah,
Frog Lady
it's
and
Frog Lady.
spiders.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Marshal, please. I really like both of these episodes, but I really like Cobb Vanth, so I'm gonna go with the Marshal.
That aspect ratio change,
Yes, sir.
chef's kiss.
All right, the tragedy or the rescue. Uh, I prefer the tragedy. I feel better after the tragedy than I do after the rescue. Is that bad?
That's really strange.
That is kind of strange.
But it is more hopeful because it's like, all right, we're gonna regroup, we're gonna
Yeah, we're
go
like, it's like, okay,
rescue.
it's okay, we're gonna get him, and then they
Yeah.
just don't, and it's like, okay. The Believer or the tragedy? I'm gonna say the Believer. I absolutely love Bill Burr in that episode. Wonderful.
And then I saw her face.
Yes. Now you're a believer.
Thank you. Jeez.
Did you
you're
not think I
slow.
got it? No, I got it.
You got a riff on it though.
Okay, I'm sorry. Which episode is better, the Jedi or the Believer? The Believer again, please.
All right.
I'm thinking the Believer is my favorite episode. I've thought that for a while, but now like officially doing this, I think it's my favorite episode. The Siege or the Passenger? The Passenger. Give me Frog Lady and Frog Lad, please. I love that episode. Can we just like, so many people hated that episode, and I really liked it.
Actually, Froglad was in the episode The Heiress.
Okay, yeah, you're right. But either way, I really liked the episode with Frog Lady, and I don't understand why a ton of people hated it.
Well, that's again, it's the people like the episode. It's just the way that the eggs were, like the way a serious issue of like her potential children were like it was made as a joke.
Oh,
a
that's
body,
right.
A body horror type of joke.
That's right. I knew that. Okay, the Heiress or the Passenger? I will take the Heiress over the Passenger. Get
Can you
more of that.
explain? You gotta explain though.
Yeah, so like as much as I really like Frog Lady and that whole thing, as some people may know, I am basically an addict for Mandalorian history and just like Mandalorian lore in general. And so with the Heiress coming in and getting a connection with Bo-Katan and the rest of what it remains of the Night Owls, yeah, I really like that a lot. Also, I really like the action sequences in that. So I like the Heiress.
A lot of good balance between action and like character moments of
And
acting,
And I will credit Bryce Dallas Howard very much for that episode because she did one of my favorite episodes, The Sanctuary, in the other season. And she is very good at that emotional, like character driven stuff. So the Heiress. And the Marshal or the Heiress. Oh, this is weird. I'm gonna go the Marshal for one reason, and that is I think both of them have good character stuff and like a good mix of like character development and emotional ties and also action.
But only one has a sand lizard.
But only one of them has a good relationship between Mando and Tuskens and seeing a bunch of stuff and a giant sand lizard. So I will go the Marshal because I love that's like Mando interacting with the Tusken Raiders. So
yeah, just everything about the scale.
Yes.
It has like such a small scale and a big scale at the same time.
And at the very end, it's like, hey, giant dragon. The Siege.
Hey, Boba Fett.
Yeah, the Siege or the Rescue. As controversial as this might be, I'm gonna pick the Rescue over the Siege.
Just pound for pound, not like the highest highs of the Rescue are higher than the highest highs of the Siege. You mean?
Yeah, I don't. The Siege I get the same feeling with the Siege as I do for Gunslinger, where like there's some good stuff in it, but overall, I don't think it was a very like huge episode. And it was
like
it was too action heavy and didn't have anything like there was no real reason other than like you figure out that like they're cloning some dudes. And so maybe that has a bigger impact in the future, but like we kind of already knew that might be why they were using Baby Yoda for, and it was more of them just like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So I'll pick the Rescue. The Rescue or the Passenger? I'm gonna pick the Passenger, please. Yeah, we're at the point where we've talked about all the episodes now, so now it's just picking. The Tragedy or the Passenger? I'm gonna say the Passenger because I've never actually been fearful for like the safety of a character until I watched the Passenger. So because the spiders were kind of scary, like
scarier than like the tension of like Baby Yoda meditating and not being guarded by Mando.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I mean, I was kind of ripped to shreds by that episode. It felt like such a spit in the face because it was all this like crazy, weird action. Like, Robert Rodriguez is like bringing this like Spy Kids level of like quirkiness to like the fights, and then it's like, but also your heart's getting ripped out of you. I don't want to have those two feelings at the same time.
Yeah. I'll pick the passenger though. I really love Frog Lady, and I like seeing Mando out of his natural habitat, which I know he is in both episodes, but even more when he literally doesn't speak the language of someone and he's used to being in control.
yeah.
And like I just love that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I feel like I agree with you. But when it comes to like the tragedy, I'm still reckoning with his opinion because like it tore me up so much. But
Yeah.
I can't tell if it's like a dislike of it or just a not. It's like it just rubs me the wrong way, and therefore I can't
Yeah.
view it highly. I don't know. I'll figure it out when I take the quiz.
All right. Well, the Jedi or the passenger is my next one, and I'm gonna go the Jedi because I know I said I like the quirky episodes more, but like Ahsoka Tano, man, I like her
Yeah.
a lot. So I'll take the Jedi, please. The Heiress or the Jedi. Now, this is what I knew this was gonna be like one of the hardest picks, but now I think it's easier than I thought it was, and I'm gonna go the Heiress because I do have a few problems with how Ahsoka and like the whole episode was kind of done. You know, story wise, we talked about it in our episode. But like the Heiress, I feel like was just done beautifully and introducing an old character in a great way. So, the Heiress is my choice.
All right.
And then the Believer or the Heiress. This is gonna be the hardest. This is number 1 and number 2. Wow. Both have you noticed that both of these episodes were about Mando's world just getting rocked and like people just questioning his motives?
Yeah.
That's what both of these episodes were about. And so I was gonna say I like the Believer because it questions his motives, but the Heiress does the exact same thing.
I would say that only one of them reaches a conclusion, but I'll let you choose first before I say.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that the only one where he really like makes a connection with someone is the Believer because he finally makes a connection with Mayfeld, and he like understands that like, you know, he doesn't have to live by this like whatever that he thinks. Like he sees Bo-Katan as like just an outsider because she's kind of like him but not like him, and so they just like don't get along. Whereas Mayfeld finally kind of like I think reaches him, and seeing him have like a legitimate conversation with somebody who he originally doesn't like, I think is really awesome. So the Believer can be my favorite.
Mhm.
And then the Marshal or the wow, these are my top 2. That's crazy. I'm gonna pick the Believer again though.
All right. And then, okay, we got a final result page. Number 8 is chapter 12, The Siege.
Yeah.
Boo, apparently.
Boo.
we hate Navarro, maybe? I don't know.
Maybe we hate Navarro. Maybe we just hate episodes that are uselessly action heavy.
Wait, chapter 12.
Well, no, it wasn't
this was-
uselessly action heavy. That was the
this
episode.
This was this season's chapter 4, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Gunslinger was chapter 5.
Yeah.
So they're about the same like point in the season.
But we
I guess.
did compare it to Gunslinger a lot in our episode, I think.
Definitely. Yeah. All right. 7 is chapter 16, The Rescue. And moving on, so number 6, chapter 14,
Okay.
The Tragedy.
Yeah.
But yeah, number 6 is The Tragedy.
Yeah. I think I don't know. Like I said, I like a lot of the quirky episodes in this season, so more than I like these really big ones. And the Tragedy, I don't think hit as hard for me as it did because I was just like, yeah, they'll get him. Like,
Really?
I was
though?
like, yeah, because I see it as like, I saw it through not the lens of a movie watcher, but I had like the or not a film fan, but as like someone who like knows Disney, and I was like, they're not gonna hurt Baby Yoda. So
I mean, yeah, but
so like I was not scared for Baby Yoda in the slightest because I was like, they're not gonna hurt him because Disney wouldn't do that.
I understand that. We definitely had a vision of like the ending of this show was, well, I mean, I guess that wasn't satisfied, so it wasn't
No, we were
the happy
wrong.
ending we expected. But we at least expected that Baby Yoda would be rescued.
Yeah.
So, but like that doesn't change the fact that when you're watching the tragedy, so many preventable things happen.
Yeah.
It's
If
like
Mando would have
watching.
just chilled out.
It's like if a basketball team was up 20 points in the third quarter, and then they just lose by 15 by the
No,
end.
it's like the Saints losing to the Buccaneers because they refused to kick a field or because they refused to go for it on 4th and 1 instead of kicking a field goal in the
All right,
playoffs
dude.
this year.
All right, dude. Wrong podcast. We're talking about movies
Yeah,
here.
right. Sorry. Not on my football podcast. My bad. Anyway.
I don't know. Like it's just any sort of I get really mad at any episode of anything that like preventable things happen, even if it's like just social awkwardness,
Yeah.
like things that can be avoided and they don't, and they spiral out of control. It really bugs me. Okay, and then we have chapter 10, The Passenger, at number 5.
This may be the only thing that I think I might change if I were to like rank these myself is that I would switch the passenger and the tragedy. So I put the tragedy at number 6 or at number 5 and the passenger at number 6, I think.
Okay.
I think
I
that
was
I might just
I
switch
mean,
those two.
you had talked about being really fond of this, of Frog Lady in this episode. But I guess you were
Yeah.
just clarifying that you liked it, but you weren't like saying that it was the top one.
Yeah, I don't know, like I forgot how much I kind of like the other episodes.
Yeah.
Cuz like I kind of forget the episodes until I like go back through and just like see the list of them. So that might be the
Yeah.
only thing I change, but other than that like I think it's spot on. So
At number 4, we have chapter 13, The Jedi.
yeah, that's accurate. Just because
And then
I like
chapter
Ahsoka, but also there were a few things I wish they would have done differently.
but also there's a lot of sort of original stuff that the show had not dealt with yet.
Yeah,
At number 3, we have chapter 11, The Heiress.
the Eris. Yeah, Bo-Katan is wonderful, and it also sets up a lot of good. I don't know what it sets up because it's setting up something, but like I don't know what it is
It
because
set up
like
Ahsoka.
yeah, but like also Bo-Katan has to come back. Like there's no way that she's gonna come in for one episode, be looking for the dark saber, and then like get there at the end of season 3 and just like not do anything else, or at the end of season 2 and just go away. So either
Mhm.
she's gonna stay in this show for like the rest of until it's done, or she's gonna have her own spin-off show that it's teasing. So one of the two.
It is kind of funny though. Like every now and then, I like peel myself back and like think of what it is to watch the show not being a fan. And if you're not a fan of the show, seeing Bo-Katan, it's just like, I am this person who's very important, and I have this very serious goal.
It makes her
that
seem
it's
like
in-
a douchebag a little bit.
It's like she's just like coming out of nowhere, and she's like, I am entwined in all of this story, and I'm here, and I'm very important. But like, if you're not a fan, you're just like, who is this?
Dude, I
Is that
flipped
the girl from
out.
Battlestar Galactica? Like,
I flipped out when I saw her. I'm not gonna lie. Like I got really I was watching with Katie and like I got really happy when I saw Bo-Katan. So
Yes, it's
yeah.
well documented.
Yes.
Okay, number 2, chapter 9, The Marshal.
Heck yeah. I've realized one of the reasons I like chapters 15 and 9 is because they both deal with like Mando seeing that there are people who don't fight for either side, but are just in bad situations and kind of becoming aware of those. So like the people, I mean, we'll go ahead and spoil the believer is number 1, but the people on that planet who were on the planet with where Mayfeld and Mando were, and they were just like in poverty, and they were just like, and he was just like, wow, like they're not fighting, but they still are in this bad situation. Same thing with the Tuscans, in the Marshal. So yeah, I like both of those episodes for that reason.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but am I right in thinking that The Believer is also your favorite Imagine Dragons song?
It is not actually. So
But you do have a favorite?
probably not. I'm not a huge fan of any of them, but I like Monster a little bit. It's pretty okay.
All right. Okay. You sense the trap. I was trapping you. You passed the test.
Thank you.
So yeah, that concludes your results.
All
for
right.
season 2.
I'm excited to see yours because I think yours are going to be, I don't know, yours are either going to be like exactly or like completely different. Like, and I don't know which one, but I don't think it's
N-
going to be very similar but different.
Narrator voice, they were completely different.
Yeah, I figured.
All right, so starting out, we have again chapter 15, the believer versus the rescue. Going with the believer. Chapter
Yeah.
13, the Jedi versus chapter 14, the tragedy. Um, the Jedi feels very spiritual and somber and like moody and samurai-y, and I love that. And chapter 14 is goofy and really maddening and sad at the same time, and
Yeah, he loses the
confused.
Razor
I,
Crest.
I'm confused by that two flavor Go-Gurt package of an episode, and so I'm going with the Jedi. And then we have chapter 11, the heiress, and chapter 12, the siege. Where'd you go, Spencer? You look very tiny on my screen.
I just backed up for a second. I'm sorry. I got a little
I
sleepy.
was,
It's like
was confused,
9:30.
man. I mean, I respect the care for the spinal health there. Okay,
Yeah, man.
heiress versus the siege. I'm going with the heiress. Bo-Katan's cool. All this action stuff is cool. Nautical planet heists. I mean, every episode has a heist almost. But Siege was kind of boring a lot of parts, even though it had Grogu eating macarons.
Yeah, I always forget about that scene
Um,
because of how much I don't like the rest of the episode.
Yeah, there were some cool Western elements, but it didn't feel like it didn't feel like it was entrenched in Western tropes. So
Yeah.
going with the heiress. And then chapter 9, the Marshal versus chapter 10, the passenger. These two are very much connected, and um it ultimately comes down to which one was just more impressive for me, because I think they both serve me good just vibes of standalone episodes. It was very striking when we watched these episodes, and it was like, rather than starting out the season with something like really grand story stuff, they
Yeah.
started off with standalone episodes, like with episodes that felt like little adventures rather than like tectonic shifting story beats. And it ultimately comes down to just which one makes me more in awe that I'm watching a Star Wars show, and it's the Marshal, because of the sequence, of fighting the snake, the what's it called,
The Crate Dragon.
Great Dragon. Okay, then we have chapter 14, the tragedy versus chapter 16, the rescue. Um, uh, I still prefer that weird Go-Gurt packet of the tragedy over the how do I say this nicely? Uh, yeah, wild beast feces of the rescue. Because in my opinion, not only was the final 5-10 minutes of rescue unsatisfying, but the journey to it wasn't even that interesting for me anyway. Um, it felt like so many things were started with that finale episode that like they were paying something off that was that was set up, and then they shifted off to something else.
Yeah.
It felt like it lacked focus, and I mean, I feel like it's telling how bad something is if my brother, who's a very casual Star Wars fan, texted me his critiques.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
I actually, yeah, he texted me while we were recording, and I said those live
Yeah, he
on our
did.
podcast.
Yeah, I remember
Um,
that.
but yeah, I mean, it's not like by no means is his opinion objective, but it's kind of funny that this is the one he has the most gripes with, and it's the one I do too. So going with the tragedy. And then Believer versus the tragedy. I love the Believer. I love the setting, and I love uh the what's the general's name or whatever.
Well,
All that stuff.
I
All
don't
that stuff with like
remember.
all that stuff with brown eyes and
Yeah.
that that little. It's the one episode without Grogu, which is disappointing in a way, but it's like you feel that desperation in his absence, basically, and I love that. Then we have the Jedi versus the Believer. Can you help me out with this one, Spencer?
I think this is a pretty obvious choice, my guy.
No,
Am
but
I?
like, pick my brain for a little bit.
What do you
Jack.
mean? So did you have the same problem with you're the one who said that for chapter 13 you had like a specific idea of what they should have done better, but I don't remember what it was.
Me neither. Oh, I mean, I definitely think that Ahsoka could have been more interesting,
Yeah.
but ultimately, I tie myself so deeply to like genre and like if an episode can feel like an entire movie, then I'm gonna love it. Even if the end of that theoretical movie mentions Thrawn for no reason, I'm still gonna latch onto it.
Yeah.
Um, that's not to put down any of the Believer, but weirdly, the Jedi has like stuck with me. It was such a weird series of days because like I was watching it. I watched it twice over the span of a day, and it's like the most memorable experience of like watching the show. I remember staying up and like in the moment, not just like I wasn't just like reacting. Like it didn't feel like I was just like it felt like I was interacting with the episode as it went along.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that like I was like talking to myself when the cold open started, and then the theme started, and I was dancing. Like that was the
Nice.
most interactive I had ever been with an episode of The Mandalorian. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just that sort of it's just that special. And then, but it's weird that that was juxtaposed by me reading all the criticisms that I felt were valid criticisms, and some of them made me feel disappointed and wonder if my emotions were like misplaced or whatever. Um, I don't think that's a possible thing you can do is misplace your emotions, but like I don't know. That cycle was so confusing for me that I started to hate being a fan.
Mm-hmm.
I think I remember texting you just like,
Yeah, you did.
well, actually, after I watched the episode the first time, I was like, I love Star Wars. Or I didn't
Yeah.
even say that. I just
No,
texted
you
I just
sent me the white, the blue, and the orange emoji, and that was it.
no, that was later. But the at like 4 a.m. I just texted you. I just texted you the words Star Wars.
That's right.
Um,
Yeah.
that's how excited it made me. And then I feel like a few days, like right before we were recording, I was like, I hate everything about this. I don't want to think about this. I don't want to take notes. This is so annoying that I have to work out my take. And
Yeah.
I just sort of rested in the comfortable ease of just like, no, this is a special episode that I really like. Even if Ahsoka isn't everything I wanted her to be, the episode was great.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though it did raise some concerns that carried over into the finale, because there is the negative aspect of the idea that Grogu should be trained, because I don't think that needed to be a discussion. But the way the story was told was still special for me.
Yeah.
Which technically this is an interesting turnaround because Gunslinger was on the bottom of our list. And that was directed by Dave Filoni. He was sort of having a bit of a stumbling block with the Gunslinger. Obviously, you had chapter 1 a little bit higher.
Mm-hmm.
I had chapter 1 pretty low, but then this being probably pretty high is interesting in terms of directorial
Yeah.
installments. I'm gonna keep a little bit more of this brief since I went on a big tangent.
All right.
It wasn't a tangent; it was
No.
warranted, but it
Yes.
is eating up into our time.
Yes.
I don't like the siege, but I do like the passenger, even though some of it was mishandled, as I discussed earlier. But I'm choosing the passenger over the siege. Passenger versus the heiress. Hmm. I think I'm gonna go with the heiress because of just the opportunities for like acting. I love seeing Mando being challenged at his beliefs and talking
Mm-hmm.
to people.
Yeah.
Even though I think it is compelling that he's like this introvert, like I'm gonna fix things in chapter 10.
I can fix it.
And like encountering someone who doesn't speak his language, like that is interesting, but I still latch on to the stuff where he's talking and arguing with people, so I like the Aerys
Yeah.
more. Okay, Aerys versus Marshall. Whew. He talks a lot in Marshall too, though, and Tusken Raiders, as you said, was a lovely carryover, and Timothy Oliphant exceeded expectations. I say,
Yeah,
say,
I would
for-
agree.
especially knowing that he's playing this character introduced in a book, and so there's a worry that like it's gonna be like a weird addition if it's
And he's
not
gonna
something if it's not something made specifically for the show. But it felt like this nice connection with canon and also
yeah.
organic to the show because
And he's gonna have his own show.
it's Mandalorian lore.
He's gonna be in Rangers of the New Republic.
Right. Wait, was that confirmed?
Probably not, but it's very much rumored.
I think that was just an idea that we had. I don't know if that's
No, I read it in
confirmed or
an
not.
article that it was like rumored or like there were talks that he was supposed to be in Rangers of the New Republic.
I mean, it makes sense. Any of these like new ensemble members are probably
Yeah.
going to be brought back. They're probably signed to like 5-year contracts.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
And then the Siege versus the Rescue. Grogu is cuter in the Siege than he is in the Rescue because in the Rescue, he doesn't get to go for a joyride. So I'm going with the Siege.
All right.
I like how the criteria are shifting. Tragedy versus the Siege. I have to go with the Tragedy because even though I guess the Siege is a little bit more consistent and giving what I would, like it doesn't drastically change what it's doing mid episode, but at least the Tragedy made me feel something.
Yeah.
And then chapter 10, the Passenger versus chapter 14, the Tragedy.
Wait, listen.
Passenger.
Wait, before you say that the Rescue didn't make you feel anything, it did. It made you feel anger.
No, I'm talking about the Siege. Did I say the Rescue on accident?
Oh, we were talking about the Siege. I thought we were talking about the Rescue. That's my bad.
Yeah.
No, I zoned out for a second.
By the way, Spencer, earlier before I went on the tangent about the Jedi, I asked if you would pick my brain because I was trying to make sure you'd stay awake.
Oh, thank you. I didn't know if like it was because you couldn't think of anything to say or if yeah.
I mean, I couldn't make a decision at that point, but I also wanted to make sure that you were gonna fall asleep.
Nah, bro, I'm awake.
Right.
I'm all good. I could strum some guitar while we do it. No, I'm just kidding. I won't do that.
But chapter 10, the Passenger, I would definitely pick over the Tragedy. Something we haven't discussed yet today is the opening scene of the Marauders type people trying to steal the Beskar and Grogu.
Yeah, I love that scene.
The tripwire and the little guy holding the knife up to Baby Yoda's face, and just sort of the deal that Mando strikes at them, and the way he just discards of him with the jetpack. It was,
Yeah.
and then Pelimoto getting reintroduced. Wait, no, she was in chapter 1 or chapter 9 as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely chapter 10, the Passenger, and then Believer versus Passenger. Gotta go with Believer.
Yes, sir.
Because yeah, I mean it's I've said it before. I don't like Bill Burr, but it's interesting when you can use his like personality or his archetype. He's like, because he feels like a modern archetype for like what he's an archetype for what men of his generation, like some men of his generation are like, and also like an archetype for what young men think they should be.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see him go through a bit of change or questioning why he is the way he is. And any sort of like thing from Mando's past that's brought back and recontextualized is always interesting.
Yeah. I think so.
The only gripe I have with this episode, as I said on our review episode, was the way that the pirates are handled, because the pirates make more sense as being part of the village, fighting back for what is rightfully theirs, and to make them feel like this other thing separate from the humans, because the pirates are aliens, the villagers are humans. I thought that was a mistake. That should have been one and the same. We should have been more clear that the pirates were the good guys, and instead they made them into creatures because we would feel better about them getting crushed by a tank. That's something I hate about this episode.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's a good episode. Chapter 11, the heiress, against chapter 15, the believer. I feel like the believer does a lot of things the heiress does, but better. So I'll go with the believer.
All right.
This is a tough one. Chapter 15 versus chapter 9.
These are the two that I had to choose between.
I've seen this film before, and I didn't like the ending. It's a little Taylor Swift reference for you there.
I don't get that, so
It's okay, Spencer. Not every podcast has two cultured people. And this is a tough decision. I gotta go with the Marshall. You can't be an IMAX frame widening out, or getting taller, and a big dragon coming out of the sand.
all right.
And Cobb Vanth putting on his helmet like a cowboy hat. That's just, those little things stand out so well.
Yeah.
Or the dogs that the Tusken Raiders have coming back from Attack of the Clones. What else? Oh, there was also the pod racer being used as a speeder.
Oh yeah, that was sick.
There's a few little prequel connections that I can't help but love. That I'm just gonna add to the list of why the chapter 9 Marshall, or chapter 9 the Marshall, is, I think, the best. Oh crap! Well, now we have it going against the Jedi.
I think it's the best. Oh crap.
No, I still gotta go with the Marshall because it doesn't. There's nothing complicated. Nothing complicates it for me. It's just what it is.
Yeah, I think you're right.
The Jedi is a unforgettable experience, but still some things to like reckon with, I guess.
Yeah.
And it also set up the bad finale that we dislike. So gotta go with the Marshall. I gotta say, I accidentally, because I took this quiz a few weeks ago, I think, and for some reason I looked at the photo right before I started it, and I felt like I spoiled myself because if I knew that, I only looked at the top result, and I knew that chapter 9 was the top, and I was worried that I would tailor my results if I knew that.
Yeah.
And that I would either go more into the Marshall or more against the Marshall, trying to change it. And what happened is that I just rediscovered that the Marshall's my favorite. So.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll say that at number 8 you put chapter 16, the rescue, and then at chapter 12 you put the siege. Or sorry, at number 7 you put chapter 12, the siege, which is just opposite of mine. Next you have chapter 14, the tragedy. So you told me I had two, that I wasn't into it enough. Well, you have it at third worst, buddy. I'm just kidding. That was a joke, by the way. That's a joke. At number 5, you have the passenger. And then at number 4, you have the heiress. Yeah. Number 3, you have chapter 15, the believer. I think mine was higher, right? Mine was number 1. And then at number 2, chapter 13, the Jedi, and then number 1, chapter 9, the Marshall. Do you agree with this overall list?
Yes, I do. Definitely. The top
Nice.
3 are definitely Marshall, Jedi, believer. Middle 3, heiress, passenger, tragedy. Those are I'd say middle 2, heiress and passenger, are like the pretty good ones.
Okay.
Or like the good ones, and then tragedy's like pretty good, but we have some things to talk about. And then the siege is like, you bore me. And then the rescue is like, you anger me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, I love these quizzes. They're so easy to rank because you're like, I don't know how to rank these. And then they're like, here. And it's like, wow,
this is what you think.
It's like, this is so easy. And then you're like, that is what I think, random guy on the internet. Thank you. So yeah, like I said, these links are in the description if you guys want to go take them and email us your results. That would be pretty cool. Maybe we can see some differing opinions, and you can tell us if you agree with our decisions or if you don't agree
Now,
with our decisions.
now, do we have time to compare the season 1 and season 2 results?
We're at an hour and a half.
Oh, I don't mean like the top.
Oh,
like
you
all the
just
lists, but I mean
mean
like the top like 2 of each season. Like,
oh yeah,
put
yeah,
those in
yeah.
like a four episode order.
Yeah. So I think we'll take your top two and from season 2 and then just your top whichever ones are on the screen right now, we can do that. Because I think mine are mine are different for number 1,
For season 2, yours are
The Believer and The Marshal in my top 2.
yeah, and then season 1 is 7 and 8.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, but let's do mine first. So my season
Alright.
1 are Prisoner and the Child, and then season 2 is the Marshal and the Jedi. Oh, that's tough. I think Prisoner is still number 1 overall because of the music. The music is just absolutely perfect. And it shares qualities with the Marshal and the Child, like in terms of things that I just love about what the show can do. But it's always a little detail that's going to put something over the top for me, and the score is what what does that. And then I'd probably I think I'd have to put the Jedi at number 2 because of how memorable it was. Wait, no, I'm totally messing this up.
Now you're messing up your rankings.
Is it weird though to
Yeah,
put
because I was about to say that I think The Marshal might be my favorite overall, but I think that as a season, I liked The Believer better, but now I'm like, I don't know.
I don't know, I'm wondering though, because like in terms of am I not making sense if I say that the Jedi is something that I look back on as a top moment of viewing this show, but it's not my favorite season 2 episode? Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying, but I don't know if other people will, but you can say it and
Like,
we'll
am
go
I
with
just
it.
changing criteria for my own benefit?
Who knows? Yeah, probably, but I'm okay with it.
I guess I gotta put the Marshal. Well, yeah, I guess this is a basis of using your one's results, your top results from each one, and choosing which is 1 and which is 2 for the grand old thing, and
Yeah.
then using the number 2 for each result and choosing which one is better. So I got to choose between the Jedi and the Child, and I think I'd go with the Jedi. No, the Child.
Okay.
So
Well,
it's Prisoner, Marshal, Child, Jedi.
Okay. Well, I am actually going to split up my top ones or my number 1 and number 2s because my number 1 overall is going to be I think it's going to end up being chapter 8. I think it's going to be chapter 8 redemption at the time. So yeah, I think that's my favorite one overall. And then secondly, I'm going to do Believer. And then, then Believer. And then number 7, the Reckoning. And then the Marshal at number 4. That's my top 4. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. This is a very fun little, like, it's kind of like a mid hiatus Mornings with the Mandalorian creative way of doing this, and I'm glad we got to have this experience.
I am too.
It's a nice little retrospective.
Yeah, I like this a lot. So yeah, I think that's it for this episode. So now is the point in the segment where we go to our email inbox and we respond to any emails. We have none. All right, that concludes our email segment.
I was so confused. I was like, do we finally have a question to
No, we don't.
answer?
No, we don't. I thought it'd be funny if I went, all right, when we now enter our segment, and that concludes our segment. All right. So if you guys do really want to go like and email us, please, it's at laststarwarspod@gmail.com. You can take the quiz. You can just ask us about anything. You can ask us any questions, or you can send us something on Twitter, or Instagram or Facebook, and we will respond to you. And maybe if it's important enough, read it on the show. So we'd like to give one shout out to someone on Twitter who has been really really good about helping us get the word out about our show. And let me just like not butcher his Twitter handle, and it's going to be at a rural farm boy on Twitter. We'd like to thank him for listening to us. He's posted us the last few weeks that he's been listening to our episode on his way to work. So thank you, rural farm boy, for always being a good supporter of the show. And he said that he listened to our episode instead of watching the Super Bowl, so that's pretty epic. Because we did make a joke about that. We have one more shout out to give. And that's going to be to a fellow set of podcasting boyos over at the what? Don't
Wait,
do me
we
like that.
never. No, like we've talked about this in our personal life, but we never mentioned on the podcast our little, like our obsession with Jar Jar's quote of saying "Hello, boyos."
Oh yeah,
But
like
it's,
we use boyos a lot, and I think this might be the first time we've used it in the podcast.
yeah,
Anyway, so what this podcast I will be shouting out is called The Solo Post. And one of the guys' names is Rob, and the other one is, it doesn't say. One of them is Rob, and I think there's another one. But either way, the Solo Post has been gracious enough to give us a shout out. So we would like to give them a shout out as well. Go check out their podcast. They're doing some pretty cool things over there. So
not
yeah,
to be confused with the Low Post, which is the ESPN basketball podcast hosted by journalist Zach Lowe.
that would be cool though if we got, shouted out by them. That'd be kind of
That would be tremendously, as they say, cool.
That would be tremendously cool. So thank you to everyone who gives us a good shout out on Twitter. And if you guys give us a shout out, also we might give you a shout out too. So thank you to everybody in advance for that. If you want to go check out our social medias, you can find us on Instagram at laststarwarspod, also on Twitter at laststarwarspod, or you can go find us on Facebook and YouTube at the Last Star Wars Podcast. We post this podcast every week on YouTube, I think, except for last week because there were some weird technical difficulties with getting the episode up. So I apologize if you watch this on YouTube. And yeah, like I said, go email us, laststarwarspod@gmail.com. Oh yeah, last little bit of something. On Star Wars Now This Is Podcasting, or StarWarsNowThis.com, there has been a new category added to the host lists, and it is what time period they became a Star Wars fan. So that kind of, I think you can sort by that possibly. I think you can sort host by that. So if let's say you want to listen to a podcast specifically of someone who became a Star Wars fan during the OT era, you can do that. You can sort by that. Christian and I think, are listed under the Clone Wars era because that's when we started to like really get into Star Wars, even though it wasn't because of Clone Wars. We're still like that era of people. So, yeah, you can always go check out StarWarsNowThis.com. The link is in the description below. It's gonna be the third link down there below the test. So, Christian, is there anything you have to say before we get out of here?
Goodbye, boyos, I guess.
Goodbye, boyos. Thank you for listening to this episode.
I mean that as like a gender neutral term. I think boyos is like a Gungan word. It doesn't mean boys.
Yeah, I think so. There was at least one female droid in there, I think. So, yeah. So thank you for listening to this episode. Next week is going to be what is next week? Next week is going to be
The intersection between sports fandom and Star Wars fandom.
Yes, with our good friend Avery
Sounds like a catchy
McGee.
little title.
Yeah, we're gonna have our good friend Avery McGrail on here on the podcast again, and possibly some other guests. But you'll have to stay tuned and come listen to that to
Yeah.
figure it out. Because we're not.
Avery, our resident Star Wars and hockey correspondent.
I thought you were gonna say Star Wars and sports guy, and I was gonna be like, "Hey, man, that's kind of offensive."
No,
because I
I
also
meant
do sports.
specifically hockey because he
Yes.
writes about hockey.
He does,
But
and he does,
all three of us are interested in sports and
and it's
Star
all
Wars.
different sports. Because like you're into basketball, I'm into
Yeah.
football, and he's into hockey. Although like I come onto the NBA side during NBA season. You know, like
Mhm.
I kind of do my own thing. So, but anyway, yeah, stay tuned for next week's episode. We're very excited about that. And then after next week, we get to kick off a very special month of celebrating Akira Kurosawa and everything he has done for the wonderful cinematic community and changing how I don't know what I was gonna say. He's a great filmmaker. That's it. He's wonderful, and I cannot say enough
Big
good
things
things.
coming for that month. So
Big.
yeah,
Big O things. So yeah,
and yeah, please hype up that as much as you can.
Hype that
by
up,
retweeting.
post
'Cause
it
that
on
would be-
Twitter.
That would be
Yeah.
very rewarding because there's a lot of work going to be it's put into this series, and we hope it does well.
Yes, we're finally starting to go in the directions that Chris and I both kind of want to do. We're going into the filmmaking side, or like just the overall great films on Christian's side, and then on my side, we're starting to put some stuff together to kind of dive into some filmmaking techniques. Behind the scenes stuff, prop design and set design and stuff, the stuff that I'm really into when it comes to movies. So stay tuned for all that stuff, and we'll have more announcements in later dates. So once again, thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Last Star Wars podcast, and we'll see you next week.